Hello and welcome to the Navy Blue Corner. I'm Ian, joined as always by my good mate Lockie, and we are back to build up our round 10 clash against Collingwood in the Sir Doug Nicholls round. It's an important round and a great way to showcase the First Nations people of Australia. And obviously, it's an important game for us right now against the old enemy. Lockie, there's plenty to go through as always, but got to ask you, as always, how are you going and how are you feeling about the game this week?
I always appreciate when you ask me that, mate. More optimistic and positive than maybe I should. I'm getting that vibe from a lot of people this week.
Yeah.
The energies are high going into this game, considering where we've been the last month and a bit. So I'm feeling good. How about you?
Yeah, definitely feeling good. Yeah, it's the emotional roller coaster of a Carlton supporter these days where you get another loss, you sulk for a little bit, and then you just have to drag yourself back up. And it's something we're used to, unfortunately, as Carlton supporters, but
It's true.
It can always turn. And that is kind of that glass half full take we're trying to have at the moment, which we've had a few messages in that throughout the week. So I think it's a good thing to hear that those that are listening are kind of with us in that vein. But we'll start this where we always love to start off. Our build-up shows. It is the what do you want to see from the game, where we try to bring 2 or 3 things up that we want to see. Obviously, it's a win, so you've got to try and see these other little things.
That's boring.
If you're listening to this right now and you're watching on YouTube, firstly, like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content. But apart from that, chuck in the comment section right now the 3 things you want to see from this game. If you're listening on your preferred streaming services, click the follow, then head over to our socials at Navy Blue Corner and let us know what your 3 things you want to see are this week, because we love hearing them. And then maybe we can steal what you've said this week and chuck it in next week, because I know I'm always struggling to find them. And I think you sometimes are too, Lockie. But this week, against Collingwood, what do you want to see?
So many things. You've already touched on a number of the biggest, like the reasons what make this such a big game this week, this Sunday afternoon. And it could be a season-defining game for us if we get up. So I think the first thing that I want to see is that care factor from the boys is obvious.
Yeah.
And we asked for it a bit. Like, this is often something that comes up in this segment, because it's like you just want to see that ferocity from the get-go. And I really, really hope that we see that in this one. Not that we're behind the ball already from the start.
Yeah.
Like, let's get the jump on them and show that everyone understands that this game means a lot to us.
No, I agree. And it's something we've probably called out for in certain different ways throughout this season, just that early start and show us the emotion and hopefully just keep that consistent from the 4 quarters. Like I don't think we've had that intensity for those 4 quarters a lot this season. So I think that's a really good one to see. One of the ones I have is, I feel like we kind of almost, maybe this is just me to get away with it so I don't get caught out each week, but then I'm bringing it up now. So I'm almost ready for someone to do it, but I change these and just change the wording up slightly. But this one this week is goals and fast flowing footy. Kind of goes off that how we play and wanting that transition. But look, I know Collingwood play that chaotic brand of football, and if we take the game on, that can kind of play into their hands a little bit because they love the turnover and whatnot. But I think regardless of the result, which is what this segment is, I think if I see us play in a way that I can see us winning games throughout the season, and a game style that we saw in that 3rd quarter, whether it worked or not against the Dogs, like taking that game on, going through the middle, streaming through, getting the ball into our forwards quickly. If I can see that and think that, wow, if we keep doing this, doesn't matter what opposition we come up against, we'll start winning more games than we lose. I think that will be enough for me, regardless of the result. Obviously, we want the win, but these are the little things that I want to see.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. And my second one kind of leads off that, which is after we see that, after we do all that, we got to do what haunted us. We got to not do what haunted us last week, and also what haunts us from round 23 last year, which is making the most of our opportunities. Like, I don't want us to be sitting here on Monday being like, wow, we should have won that one if only we had kicked those goals that we should have. So let's hope that some of those yips and things that were around last week, we get through them and we make the most of it.
No, it's a really good point, because I think that's the annoying thing from last week was, as bad as we probably played for 2.5 quarters, the opportunities were still there. And it's just the difference between good sides and where we are at the moment. The good sides take those chances. They take those half chances. I read a little article that was talking about the difference in like a Harry Mackay at the moment in like the expected goals compared to some of the others. And he was obviously down on the expected goals. But the interesting thing was then contrasting that with the guys in the league at the moment that are going above the expected goals. So like taking more of the opportunities. And obviously at the moment, we'll talk about Harry at some stage. Obviously, it's just about at least getting him to the even. But it's the separation between a good and a great team is being better than what is expected of you in all the stats and getting the most out of those opportunities. And yeah, you just hope more guys can kick like a Matt Owies, I think. One of the others that I have is maybe focusing on the opposition. It's something that I do at some stage throughout this episode. But look, I know halfbacks seem to have a big thing against us every single time we play them. It's unaccountable footy. We just let them have a field day. And so one of the things I want to see is us not let Nick Dacos just roam free all day. That's need to see him be accountable in some way or fashion. I reckon there's probably going to be a listener question on this one, so I don't want to go into the details of how we stop this man. But if I see him just run off that halfback all day, uncontested footy, I'll be very, very frustrated. So I think they'll kill us if that happens.
It's a fantastic point. I'm sure that's going to come up when we talk team changes. Yeah, that's already given me nightmares. My final one, and I've seen a fair bit of talk on Twitter about this. I don't know whether you're going to be keen to talk about it, but you mentioned Harry. Something that I want to see is all of us getting around the big man. And I know it's going to happen in the pregame when they call out Harry Mackay.
Yes.
And it's gonna happen then. But then I hope it can continue throughout the game as well. And, you know, as frustrating as it is for us as supporters, hopefully we can, you know, keep his best interest at our heart and not get stuck into him if he misses one or whatever it is.
No, I do love that. And I don't know how much of our listener and viewership are on Twitter and are on all the social media. So if you're not on there, a couple of people, and apologies, I don't know who exactly said this, but there's been a big call to arms for the fans. We know we're boisterous, we know we're loud, and it's when they're reading the team names out at the start and they go through them individually, like you're talking about, where you're thinking, oh my God, is Harrison McCready still playing for us? What's the name? No, when they read out Harry Mackay, and because there's always a big roar for Charlie, and there's always a big roar for Mackay this week, and then everyone else, it kind of, there's not a lot. If we can just get up and about and try to make sure when Harry's name gets read out that is the loudest roar almost of the whole day. Just, I don't know. I don't know how much the noise and stuff like that does play a massive effect, but surely there is no negative of that happening. And it can just show that we're behind him, because we've gone big on social media this week when Robbo and a few journalists have gone hard. So let's do it in person. Let's not just do it on the socials. Let's put the keyboard aside and let's back it up. And apart from that, I've also I have a point on here, and it's when he does get the ball and when he does take a mark. So I felt this last week. There was almost,
you're not going to ask for an animal sound or something, are you?
No, don't worry. No McDonald's farm this week, but I wish there was something. I'll be up and about if there was.
Really good.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but it's when he did take that mark and lined up on the snap, there was almost like a from the whole crowd. And then when he missed it, there's an even bigger groan of, oh God. When he lines up regardless, let's just get around him. I love
it.
Let's not. I know it's so hard not to. It's so hard not to, because as soon as you see, like, oh God, just like, I know I'm not groaning, but I'm nervously like, oh, just please kick it. Please kick it. Like, that's my energy. But maybe if we just cheer and be like, yep, Harry's slotting this one. Come on, get around him.
He's snapping it from 50. Yes.
Let's do it. He's snapping from directly in front. Who cares? He's putting it on his right foot. Doesn't matter. Let's just get around him and hope that maybe just a bit of that noise does something. And maybe that's the trigger he needs. But interesting that your third one's on Harry. Mine is as well. Mine is, let's hope that Harry just kicks a bag of 4 plus. I think I called out on Twitter saying we're winning this game and he's kicking 5, but I'll take 4+ at this stage.
We'll take 4.
And that's what I want to see. Harry back in action.
You're going to get around Cripper if he lines up for another left foot snap, or?
I'm going to have to. I know I called it out. I went big, but I've got it now. I've got to now.
We're supporting everyone this weekend.
Why not? Why not? They're all great fellas. But yes, those are our 3 things that we want to see. Let us know yours in the comments on social media at Navy Blue Corner. If you're enjoying what you're listening to so far, make sure to follow us where you're listening. Subscribe on YouTube and on all the socials so you don't miss anything. And leave a review on Apple Podcasts as well. Haven't checked it in the last few weeks, but if you'd leave us a review, 5 stars.
They're piling up on there. Likely.
I think they will be. So we almost might have to dedicate an episode to reading them out, because if you give us 5 stars and say something nice, we will read it out live on the pod. So easiest way to get a shout out on this thing. And another way to get a shout out is through the listener questions, Lockie. Again, they're on the socials. Gee, the plugs are just coming through beautifully for me right now. We chucked them out on Twitter at Navy Blue Corner. We chucked them out on Insta at Navy Blue Corner. So if you want your questions in, head over there. Lockie, what have the listeners asked us this week?
Well, I'm starting off with a statement, just a straight up statement. Not sure if Damien Red 91 is a long time listener or not, or whether him and I are just aligned in the fact that sometimes we dream and we have premonitions of manifesting things to happen.
Is this your burner? Is that what you're telling me?
Maybe this is my burner. He just said, I had a dream. Siren sounds. We're 5 points down. Harry has the ball, 50 out. Snaps around the corner, goes through, win by a point. That manifestation needs to be called out. I love it, Davo.
That would be absolutely incredible. If there's a better way to break the duck against Collingwood, that mental hurdle, there's a better way for Harry to get over that mental barrier. My goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I mean, I think my heart would explode. But I do. If that happens,
I'd cry.
It'll be one of the greatest moments you'll ever witness. Who needs a Jack and Nunes goal when you'll have that?
I would be insufferable for days. And I reckon we'd do a 5-hour pod.
Live stream it from outside the G.
From Mickey C's, this is your wheelhouse. You know I like feeding you ones like these to show that footy intellect of yours.
Oh, no.
So you're part of the coaching group. What I guess this plays into the keys later, so maybe I'll let you give a taste of the keys. He says, what are the 3 or so key things we need to do tactically to beat the Pies? Do you want to give a little taste for later in the episode? I'm being you now. We'll talk about that one later.
No, like this is the thing, and I know when I listen to my favorite podcast, they always do this, and you're like, just talk about it now. And I'm someone that will probably forget. I'll probably forget a few of my, bit of consciousness, streams of consciousness. I tend to forget them. I can't even say it now because I'm losing the stream of consciousness. But I think...
Give Mickey something.
Without going into too much detail, because it's literally on my run sheet in front of me right now. But I'll give you this. I'll give you this, actually, because this is a beautiful taste of what's to come. I have 3 things written down that are maybe not super tactically, but I think these are the pillars of what will win us this game. So take this in. Work rate, discipline, teamwork. Very generic terms.
Buzzwords.
Buzzwords that we love to throw out there. But when I get into the details of it, you will understand why they are more than buzzwords. Write them on your wrist. Write them on the tape. Put them, plaster them up on the change rooms to walk out, and we'll get the dub.
All right. I like it. Stay listening, everybody. That I cannot wait to see how you go deep into that. But now it's time for Soj. How hard is it for the team to increase our handball ratio and our speed through the middle? I just rewatched the Dogs game 3rd quarter, and our run and carry was what got us back in the game. Yeah. Please and thanks, Carlton. Gee, this is your bread and butter, isn't it?
I wish it was my bread and butter, but I'm struggling to sort it out. Like, how do we... Obviously, the players are looking at that 3rd quarter being like, that's what we want to do all the time.
Yes.
It's easier. It is easier said than done. I guess I'll give a bit of a Soj bomb if I can. If I can,
stop it.
Make my head bigger than possible. I was very fortunate to be at a little bit of a player sponsor event during the week with Zach Fisher. I had Pito next to me. I had Hewitt on there as well. And it was funny. We kind of spoke a little bit about that kind of thing.
Okay. Give us the...
Yeah.
Come on, Soj. Soj might lose his place as our number one reporter if you're going to be getting scoops like this. Going to player functions. God, you're moving up in the world.
I'll be honest. I've lost my stream of consciousness. There was so much spoken about. What was the little bomb that it was talking about there? And I'll be able to get it back. I told you my stream of consciousness is leaving me, Lockie. Keep it here. Keep it here. Keep it here. I've got the scoop.
Handball ratio speed through the middle.
Yes, they were talking about when you're not playing, things will look so easy. You know, Fisher was saying, mate, I was watching that game against the Dogs, being like, what do you mean? I could be out there now and I'd be the best player. This is so easy, boys. Why are you not doing it? Why are you not doing these little things? And so I think that it's funny that even the players have that perspective of when you watch things back, like it's so easy to know what's not going right and you can easily pick it apart because you know what's meant to be going. And I think that is what the little nugget I took of they know what needs to happen. And even watching it, they're like, this is clearly what's not happening. And so I think when you're looking to stream those handballs together and make sure that it's less of that slow ball movement, it comes back to maybe those pillars. It's that work rate. We've got the options a lot of the time. Guys are in right positions. They're just either not working hard enough to get and create that space like we've been talking about and be that together spreading away from the contest, creating the options. But then it is that mental side of it. It is being able to make those correct decisions because at times we don't look. It's that head on a swivel. Like there's a guy there to your right, but we don't look and where's Sardi for that handball to go into danger? You know what I mean? Like it's such a weird, interesting part of things where I think there's a lack of decision-making and a lack of work rate. But if we bundle those together, like we showed in that third quarter, I think that is the key to getting more of those handballs together.
I wonder if Fish is going to be playing this week because if he is, and he plays an absolute ripper,
can I take credit?
We're going to know why.
I hope to take credit. Must be me.
Did Pito mention his 50th game coming up?
He didn't. He didn't. Maybe he's like the Carlton socials where no one will tell you anything about it. And then it's like the day before, and it's like, oh, by the way, this guy's playing his 700th game for the club. Probably should have let you know that earlier. Maybe it's a big deal. Not sure. But he seems to be in ripper form from sitting next to the great man. So hopefully, if him and Fisher play some good games on the weekend, I like it. It's because of me, surely.
Superbad has the same stream of consciousness, as you like to put it, as you. You're in the same area right now. He says, seems like Ed is in the team. I'm guessing to do a job on Dacos. But I feel like Walsh has been playing 40% half forward these days. Why not let him battle it out head to head? Surely that would keep Dacos accountable. What do you think about that? I've saw a few comments of people talking about whether Ed is in there to do a job. Would you support that?
Well, that was the first thing that took my eye when looking at the team changes was, who's come in, who's come out? And then having a look at that extended bench to try and pick the 4 guys that are going to be staying in there. And I'm like, I feel like there's one extra. Like, I feel like one person that I want is missing out. And then all of a sudden I'm going, hang on, who's been named in the team that I've missed here? And unfortunately, it was one Edward Curnow that was named on that half forward line that I wasn't expecting to see straight back in there. Obviously, was a sub last week.
Neither.
So it makes you think straight away that, maybe he's in there to be that defensive role. And I don't know. I like that they're potentially trying something if that's the idea, but I don't love it because I'm not sure it's worked so far. Like every time he had him in there, do you think that he's really been able to shut down an opposition's halfback?
Probably not.
Yeah. And so that's probably the issue for me where I almost wanted to go the other way of it, of making him accountable, whether that's like we're suggesting here going, well, is it a Walshy having to actually defend? Because Walshy's going to be running everywhere. Or is it a small forward like a Matty Owies making him have to, I'm going to kick goals on you. So what do you got to do? I think that there's obviously some elements of that could be more interesting in how we do it. Like you look at a Ben Keys for Adelaide now, he's able to do it because he's able to hit the scoreboard. that idea with an Ed Kerno, I'm not sure that's the perfect person for it. But equally, I don't know if there is a nailed on perfect option. Do you have any ideas of anyone you'd like to see maybe go to him and how you'd like that structured? And if you listen to this right now, again, let us know in the comments, let us know on social media, because this is going to be one of those big tactical pieces heading into this game.
We've spoken about this before because people, like media people earlier in the season, were talking about this idea of making him more accountable, but it's the defenders really dictate the matchups. Like it's not so easy for us to be like, all right, we'll put Walsh on him and that will make him accountable, because it's like, well, then he can just play on someone else, and now suddenly someone hasn't got a man. It's like it doesn't. It's not that easy. I don't know. I mean, as you mentioned in kind of the things you want to see, it feels like if we aren't thinking about this in a deep level, we're going, it's just going to, he's going to have 40 touches and he's going to have 3 votes. So and that would be a really sad way to lose this game, because that's losing to what we know. And the thing that's so obvious.
And that's something we've kind of spoken about in the last few weeks as well, where the big narrative has been it's so easy for teams to take away our strengths, but we never take away the opposition's strengths. So even as much as I maybe don't love the idea of Ed Kerno being in that position, if I can at least see that the coaching group are coming up with ways of trying to take away the opposition's weapons, I guess I kind of have to be content with that in a way. And maybe they saw the success that was it Ryan Clark from Sydney that ended up being on him and sort of shut him down a little bit. He probably had his least involvements in a game of football this season. And maybe we've seen some of that and thought that Ed's that perfect guy to play that role. Who knows? I think we'll see what happens on the weekend, but it looks like that is probably the play at this stage with him being officially in that team.
Do you support the kind of idea, not saying that I do, just putting it out there, of that Sydney went with in that game? If I think about Carlton, it reminds me of like Jed Lamb back in the day, that famous game. Do you support us? I don't know, where, like say it's Cottrell or someone, where it's like someone goes to him and just,
annoys him all day. Gives him the pinches and whatnot. The Ryan Crowley
pinches. Yeah, is that something you think? It doesn't feel very us.
No, and it's that hard thing of even like the tagging role. I've spoken about it on pod. I don't love it because it's that opportunity cost of what are you losing by basically saying one player on that field is doing a negating role rather than something positive and backing in your system. Like I like the idea of making them accountable rather than just Ed Kerno, your idea today is like not to get the ball. It's to make sure he doesn't get the ball. I don't love those. I think if the boys were kind of targeting him a little bit in like the going up to him and bumping him all the time and things like that, like this is maybe a bad call. I don't know. Feel free to give me your opinion on this, but like, I'd love if we did that to everyone every second of the day. Like I would love if we were almost like we're like the bloody Detroit bad boys. Like we are just rough and you don't want to play us because you're coming up against a team that they're going to be a bit dirty, and every single second you've got that ball, we're going to let you know about it. Like obviously within the rules, no one going
I'm with you
beyond that. But if we came with that bit of physicality, I would never be upset with it. I think the supporters would kind of love that, to be honest.
Me too. No, we've been crying out for that for a decade. It's just not. I would be so incredibly shocked if we saw that this season. Like, it just doesn't feel like it's us.
Nah, it doesn't.
But we're going to do something. I don't want to be sitting here saying that Nick Dacos has had his best game ever and we just let it happen. God, we got all the stars in the questions today. Timmy Dubb, heard of him?
Podcast royalty, some could say.
Do you expect any surprise field positional changes for players, or will they remain in their regular spots? Maybe that'll kind of lead us into the changes soon, but any thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one. I don't think we'll go too far away from things. I can't imagine they've got something ridiculous up their sleeve, some sort of big lever to pull. I think at the moment, I think that'll hurt us potentially more than it'll help us. Because if you kind of look at how we've been playing at the moment, it feels like, and it's the buzzword of buzzwords at the moment, of execution, of us kind of knowing what we need to do, but it just hasn't come off for us. We just haven't been able to execute it perfectly. And I think if you start making heavy changes, knowing that it feels like we're so close to everything just clicking, I don't know if that'd be worse off for us. It's almost like just keep sticking at this and hope that it does click, because if that third quarter is what we want to play like and how everything works best, then I think you just keep pushing until it happens.
Yep. No, I very much agree. The only thing that comes to mind is just going back to that last question, whether it's like someone different kind of going to that forward spot, doing a Dacos job, maybe someone that we don't expect.
Yes.
So I'm so excited to see how it plays out. But that takes us to our gal, Jess G. Who on earth do you pick from the extended bench? And Peter V says, who comes in and out? Shall we dive into it?
Dive into the changes, you reckon? We definitely can. So let's go into it. So who has come in this week? Obviously, we're recording this on a lovely Thursday night, so we don't know exactly who is in and out because we've got that extended bench. But coming into it is Boyd, De Koning, and Fisher, which is very interesting. Was there anyone there that surprised you that maybe didn't come in of those three into the extended bench?
Gosh, I hadn't even thought about that. No, correct me if I'm wrong.
I think the only one potentially is maybe a Jack Martin, because he did play last week, but you never know exactly, I guess, what the fitness is like on him. And then if we're going to take it at face value that the players that have to be selected and that will come out are definitely off that extended bench. Let's go with that train of thought for now.
Sure.
It is out of, you can get 4 from this to be on the field. Who are you taking out of Hewitt, De Koning, Owies, Cottrell, Boyd, Chincotta, Fisher, and Kennedy Lockie? Who is it for you? Who are the 4?
Is this the best extended bench that we've seen doing this podcast?
It probably is. It was so hard. That's why I was saying I was having a look into the team, being like, is there someone listed in here that I didn't expect them to be? Because that's almost
I want all of these players
in my field. Like, can we just play with the extended bench? Like, what's going on here?
It's really tricky. I think there's actually so many combinations here that would work and that people might want to see. And I think people could be quite divided on how this goes. But for me, I'd be basically rolling with what we had last week. So Hewitt and Kennedy are definitely in there for me. Owies and Cottrell have to be rewarded. So that means it would be, sadly, based on this, it would be Chincotta that comes out for Curnow. But I wouldn't be doing that if it was me.
Yeah, and this is the weird thing when I was looking at the team changes, because normally, at least how I tend to do things is having one of those players be a defender. It's normally 2 mids and then a forward. Like, that's kind of how you balance it out. And looking at the rotations at the moment, that 7th defender, there's 2 of them on the extended bench. So it makes it weird.
One of them, right?
I don't know, and I wouldn't like it if an Ed is straight in, that they would then get rid of a Cottrell straight out after one game, especially when I thought he did play quite well. I know there was a few times I didn't love his tracking, watching it back at a few iterations. It was like, I probably should have gone here. He lost his man here a little bit, but there was so much that I did like that I wouldn't want to lose. And
same.
With Hollands out there, he probably would have been the easier one to maybe rest, keep Cottrell in, and then that sort of fixes your bench a little bit better. But I agree with you. I think it kind of has to be definitely Hewitt, definitely Kennedy, always has to be in there. And then, I think Cottrell for what he offers, I do really like that in there. But I think my ideal probably would have been take Ed out and then keep one of Boyd or Chincotta. That kind of would have been my changes.
So no changes essentially, or Boyd.
Yeah, what were your ins and outs? Did you have did you say that you had no?
Yeah.
ins.
That was my
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah, I think my only
yeah.
one was, and it's literally a toss the coin. Like, I'm not that hard on it. Would have been maybe Boyd for Chin Cotter as
Yeah.
just a little bit
Yeah.
of like fixing it up, giving him a little bit more time after a bit of a good run, and then letting Boyd go in there just for a bit better football use by foot, really.
It feels like the sub thing, doesn't it? Like, is it actually a thing that they're supposed to choose from these 8? Like, is that confirmed?
Well, I have seen them previously literally get someone that was named on field off, but normally it tends to be from the bench. But even the new rule that apparently at the moment is that, like, even if they did name the full team, if you're an emergency, you can literally go straight into the team and you can switch it like a few hours before the bounce, and it means nothing, which will be interesting going forward, talking about the teams if they can kind of be like a bit more strategic in that by trying to catch the opposition off guard. But
Totally.
yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see. Let us know what changes you would have made, and then who you think will be kept in the team from that extended bench. But there's one last thing we got to talk about with that team changes, which is out of the guys that are in that extended bench that you haven't kept in, who's the sub for you? Who is that standout player that you think can be an impact for us?
Oh my goodness. Well, the other thing I just wanted to chuck in, as you mentioned, that kind of strategic play, it does make me think about TDK, because I don't know, it's hard to think about the strategy behind that, but is there a way that we can expose them? Darcy Cameron is probably coming back in. Like, they named him on the extended bench, but is that a way that we could expose them by going with the 2 rucks, going with a really tall forward line? I wouldn't have been surprised if they did name him or do name him, but that's something.
It might be a reason why he could come straight in, because we're looking at it thinking, shit, we need like that extra height, because now they've got the 2 big ruckmen in Cox and Darcy Cameron in there now, and maybe like Sauce just won't cut it. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if that does happen. I think I don't know. It definitely wasn't in my plans. I think for me, like the sub, I think Fisher out of those guys, either him or maybe like a Boyd Chin Cotter, just some leg speed, someone with some run that can maybe impact the game, would have been the levers that I'd be looking to pull, because I think Ed Curnow coming on last week wasn't really it for me. Even though at times I've maybe suggested him as a sub, finally seeing it was like, it was kind of everything I was worried it would be, where you're just bringing on someone rather than someone that really, like, I guess Kennedy, when he came on, you noticed a difference. And I just don't think we get that with an Ed. So hopefully a bit of leg speed to come in.
Yeah. And Fisher would be that guy for me if I was choosing between those 4. I think, he should be fresh. He should be hungry. He's got the Ian Brownie pep talk ringing in his ears. I don't see any reason why he can't have 15 and kick 3 in that last quarter and put us over the line.
Mate, that is what we want to see. I do have a couple of questions for you. I know you threw me under the bus with the listener questions.
How dare you?
Which we like. This is not on the run sheet. These are off the cuff for...
Why do you even give me a run sheet?
I'll give you a little bit.
Go on.
I can't give it all. Then we need some secrets here. Definitely. Can't be having no secrets for sure. So I got a few things to ask you, because talking about this game, I knew there were topics that we needed to mention. And if they didn't come up in the fan questions, I just had to ask you them. And it's around, obviously, that round 23 and what happened last season.
Recall it.
I just want to get your thoughts on it, because do you think that the players carry much of like the mental demons of that round 23 last year? Like, going into this game, we've been talking about mentality and like, are these guys broken? Like, is there a part of them that just can't hack it? Like, thinking back to like the Richmond game round 1 this season, where we're in front and then Richmond come back, and we just haven't been perfect really this season. Do you think that we do carry the scars a little bit? And are you worried at all in this game that if certain scenarios do play out, that these boys could crumble, knowing what did transpire last year?
I'll try not to waffle here, because there's a couple points I want to make. Firstly, when we were talking off air and you were debriefing with me about the sponsored dinner, it's like we were kind of reminded, it was like a reminder of how real these guys are. And they're just blokes like us doing their job. And, you know, when we watch them every week and we idolize them, you sometimes forget that they're human. And if I think back to when you and I played sport when we were younger at the most minimized level compared to these guys, I don't want to speak for you. Under 13s, but you had a relationship with every team that you versed. Like, you had different feelings, you had memories about the different times that you played, and all of that to say, there's no doubt in my mind that they carry that with them. The fact that it was Collingwood and the way that it, you know, they would have had all these hopes and dreams about playing finals under Vossi that first season, which got shattered in that game. And so I'm hoping that those demons aren't going to be there, but I don't think there's any way that you can deny that it's not present. Like the thought of that game and those memories are there. And I hope that because we've been through these situations and we've trained and learned and gone through the strategy of it, that we can then break through that barrier. But yeah, I just have to see it to believe it.
No, I hope this tidbit that I'm about to throw in here, because of the ending of it, that it's not a bad thing to put out there. But I just think about, there was definitely a team that we basically beat every single team but one, and they were the only team that we hadn't beaten over apparent. Like, I joined the team at a later stage, but it was like 4 or 5 years they'd never beaten this one team. And it was like, we were the second best in this league for years, but just couldn't beat the number one. And every single time you played them, you kind of went in with the like, yeah, we know we haven't beaten this team, but you do go in with that, this is the one, like, we're going to do it. And there was more motivation to do it. And for whatever reason, we still never were able to get it done. Like, which is the bad part about it, which is why I almost didn't want to bring it up. Like, but
that's good.
I just kind of go back to such like a shit level of football, nowhere near a professional athlete at all. Want to make that perfectly clear here. But even when that game was happening, like, we were pretty much like close with this team most of the times, and then they'd just start to break away. But even when they got a few goals up, I know for myself, I wasn't thinking like, oh, it's happening again. It was just like, no, let's not let this happen again. And it was just like, let's go the next one. And all of a sudden, it would get to a moment where like the opposition was like 30 points up and you went like, fuck, they've managed to do it again. Like, how did they do it? But it wasn't like during those moments I had those thoughts, or I think collectively there wasn't this,
I agree.
Oh no, it's happening again, and you faltered. It just sort of, it happened and then you realized it had happened. So I'm hoping that that's kind of the way that it happens with these boys, where they use it as motivation, and hopefully they're a bit better than I was and able to get over that mental hurdle, because it leads to my next question of, if you think, if we do beat Collingwood mentally, because of all the baggage, because of everything and how we're playing currently, do you think that this would be that circuit breaker that they'd need? Like, we thought about last week being, let's just get that win against a good opposition, but doing it against Collingwood in particular.
Yeah.
Do you think that's almost the thing that these guys need?
100%. 100%. It felt like the Brisbane game could have been that as well, because the stakes were so high for that one. And now they're even higher just because the pressure's even more mounted and all the criticism and everything. I just have so much faith in this team, and some of it may be unwarranted, and people will call me delusional in my DMs. Shout out to everyone that did that after my post last week. But yeah, I think a win in this game, no matter how it happens, like, I definitely believe that it can turn everything around, if you want to look at it that way.
No, and look, we're fans at the end of the day, and all we hope for is that it can turn around, and then it will turn around. Otherwise, why would we go to the footy if we just think we're going to lose the game? Like, there's better things to do, and will it happen? Who knows? But we just got to be there, cheer them on, and hope it does. And I agree. I think that this could be that circuit breaker if it happens. If it doesn't, definitely not the end of the world. We go again next week, and we go again the week after, and we keep going until it happens. But for those mental reasons behind it, I think it would just have that massive effect of, we can just put that behind us. The media can put it behind us. The fans can do it as well. And then we just move on with it. But yeah, how do we beat them is the question. And it kind of leads us to the next segment of the opposition analysis that'll tie it nicely into the keys to winning. And I kind of have found a bit of a structure with this one where I go through the defense, the midfield, and then the forward line of the opposition, getting a couple of key points. And I think with a Collingwood, part of it, it's like I almost don't need to say a lot because we kind of know what Collingwood are. They've been like this for a couple of seasons, and it's almost quite simple, the analysis on this one. But I'll start with their defense, and I think obviously you've got to highlight that Darcy Moore is one of the most in-form key defenders, I think, this year, dominating with his intercepts. He's the key pillar down back for them. He not only stops opposition's run of play, but what he's been able to do so much is it's not like intercepting, just like handball it off, but his kicking's been really good as well, and being able to be like what we kind of want Mitch McGovern to be at his best, being able to rebound and kick those plays off for them. He sets them up so well down back. And then I think their smalls are always so damaging, particularly against us. Like, they're just so good at ground level. You look at like Quaynor, Maynard, Dacos, Noble. You can throw Markov into that. He's at least got some pace away from it, but they're just so good at it at ground level. And I think we always get hurt in this area. Like, our small forwards, issue with them has been their ability to lock it in, keep the pressure in there. And so many teams seem to just stream the ball out of our forward half, particularly from kick-ins. And knowing that's such a strength for Collingwood, we really need to be on it. We need to lock that ball in, keep the high pressure up, work. And these are the key pillars I'm going to keep throwing out there. Because if we're disciplined and if we keep that hard work and work as a unit throughout that whole field to stop these guys doing it, we're going to be better for it, because it's such a worry for us. And it is just something they're really good at. And then to highlight Nick Dacos, who is one of their key players. He's the number one player for disposals, the number one disposal getter in the competition. He's number 2 at generating inside 50s just for Collingwood, behind DeGoey, which I find quite interesting considering his position being that halfback, pinch hitting in the midfield as well. So it just shows how pivotal he is. He's number 3 in the competition for effective kicks and number 1 in the competition for effective disposal. Something we're not good at is disposing the ball. So again, it just highlights this guy and what we have to potentially shut down. It's just the key to how they move the ball out of defense and helping them set up forward of center. He's hard to stop because he's so good, but we just can't let him roam free all day. Jumping then into their midfield. Really, it's just where a lot of their success comes from. Their high work rate, good skills, and their spread away is just deadly with their chaotic ball approach. And it's interesting. They're not a massive clearance side. They don't sort of base their football off winning clearances like maybe I think we kind of do. They've obviously brought in a Tom Mitchell to help that area. And at the moment, it's interesting when you look at the ratings. At the moment, they're 11th for center clearances. We're 15th. And then stoppage clearances, they're ranked 9th, we're 8th. So it's interesting, but because at the moment they're not super damaging from there, but because most of their play tends to be a bit more turnover based, it's that spread away. But it's when they do win it, they are so incredibly just effective with it. And I kind of want to throw up some graphics to, I guess, highlight what is going on with their midfield, and maybe it shows some deficiencies for us. Interesting thing, though, when I did mention that we're 15th for center clearances and struggling a little bit in the midfield, is over the last 6 weeks, where we've sort of switched this up a little bit. We're actually now the 2nd rated for contested possessions, and we're the 3rd highest scoring team from clearances in the last 6 weeks. So if you just had that, I reckon we'd be rating a lot higher in the other key metrics as well. But it just kind of goes to show that these stats aren't just little microcosm, they're kind of the whole bit. I'll just bring this up onto the screen at the moment. This is the center clearances and the average of the players. So it's a bit more of a visual one. So if you're on YouTube, you're going to love it. If you're listening to this in podcast form, if you want to jump over to YouTube at some stage and watch this, feel free. Otherwise, I'll do my best to explain it. But it's the average center clearances per game of Collingwood's midfield versus ours. Basically, you've got DeGoey for them at 3.3, Tom Mitchell at 2.4. And I guess there's sort of a big drop-off from that to there next. And you kind of look at ours, it's Cripper 2.6, Hewitt 1.8. It's just a big difference in the quantity of their top. being, to go with a 3, Mitchell with a 2, ours being then 2 and pretty much 2 with Cripps and Hewitt. So I think that kind of highlights to you and maybe to me as well that they're doing a little bit better at it with their better players, but then it's also their depth, which is the worry for me, where Taylor Adams at 1.6, Pendle's at 1.6, Crisp 0.7, Nick Dacos at 0.6, compared to the rest of our depth being Chera 1.7, that matches up well, but then Walsh dropping off at 1.2, Kennedy at 1, Doherty probably the next midfield mix at 0. So that kind of is that issue of our midfield's been okay. The top end hasn't been as good as it has been beasting. And then the depth has been the issue. And I think when you look at center clearances, that's kind of it there, which is maybe a little bit of a worry, but an area that clearly, if we can dominate this spot on the ground, I think we're going to be so much better for it. But I just thought it was an interesting thing to highlight the guys that do run through there, just to see what it's like this year. And then looking at stoppage clearances as well. There's a lot more names on this one because this is where you start to get your wingers involved as well. And it just kind of shows you what we need to look out for because, again, I think we match up quite well maybe at the start, but then it drops off quite a bit. So DeGoey is at 3.3. Mitchell's at 3.3. Josh Dacos is quite good at this around the stoppages at 3. Whereas then you've got our top guys at Cripper 4.9, so he's better than everyone. But then Walsh is the next at 3, Chera at 2.3. So while I feel like I've said 3 so many bloody times, but Collingwood's top 3 all averaging around that 3 mark. Ours drops off on that third to Chera at 2.3. So it's kind of, we're just not hanging with them with the consistency and the depth. And then dropping even further, you got Adams and Pendles at 2.4, Crisp at 1.9, side bottom 1.9, and Dacos 1.6. So those guys, again, around that 1.6, 1.9. The rest of our depth is Akers at 2, Hewitt at 2, Doc 1.4, and throwing in our other winger, Hollands at 1.1 around the stoppage clearances. So a bit of a difference there. It sort of drops off again heavily at those last few. When I was looking at the stats and looking at the stoppage clearances, there were a few other names that were higher than a Hollands. I think an Ed Kerno was up there and maybe a few others, but I was trying to just have guys that were more midfield based to compare it more naturally, because the big takeaway from this is kind of looking at their wings in the Josh Dacos and the side bottom and just the influence that they have around stoppages, not only from a clearance point of view, but then they're so damaging on the outside, and we just have to be and hold them to account. And then you look at our wingers, it maybe hasn't been the best. So I thought I'd just highlight those little key points for you. And then, the other sort of main things to look out for in the midfield is Tom Mitchell with his clearances. He's so good at getting the ball out in congestion and being that feeder to their midfield runners. So he's a vital one to stop. And then DeGoey being that great clearance player like I showed with those stats, but then he's also able to hit the scoreboard. So we've just got to be really switched on when he does go forward. So I think that's something our team lacks at the moment, is having a mid that can go forward. So you just can't get him getting loose. Do you have anything you wanted to say on the defense or the midfield before I jump into the forwards?
Lots of threats. Get some water in you, mate. Please. I guess the only comment on the clearance thing is just the role that Pitt can play in that as well is so important. Like, hopefully that's a part of this game where we can he can dominate the hit outs, give us those good looks and get those clearance numbers up. My fingers are crossed.
Yeah, definitely. Now, looking at their forwards, it's very interesting. They're second for inside 50s, which is actually insane in the competition at the moment. Unfortunately, we're 14th, so not good.
Wow.
And then they're 7th for
That's
tackles inside 50. We're 14th. So, not only do they get it in a lot, but they're really good at keeping it in, which is obviously why they're on top of the ladder at the moment. They don't have a lot of tall targets. It's Myercheck and Mason Cox. But really where their strength is, it lies with their vast amount of those dynamic smalls that can hurt us. And just look at the Brisbane game as how bad it can happen when it happens against us. So that's a worry and a watch area for me, because you just can't give them a lot of space. We really have to apply the pressure, which is why I was talking about our smalls. Because when they get free, their use is so good, and our use as well. I guess when you're looking at our defenders trying to stop these forwards, we haven't been great at getting that ball out of D50. Ball movement has been an issue. Decision-making has been an issue. So I think we've got to be so switched on here, because with their pressure being 7th for tackles inside 50 and it coming in so much, we've just got to be smart getting it out. And what is quite interesting again for me here, weird stat, is they're not really a big marking team. We're ranked number 1 for marks in the AFL. They rank 15th. So they don't tend to kick mark a lot, which makes sense from how they play.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at that, 1st to 15th, marks inside 50, we're 6th, they're 7th for marks inside 50. So they're not getting a lot of them, but when they do, they're in the right areas. Again, kind of showing you this efficiency and showing you that they're just using it a little bit better. The worrying part to throw out there is over the last 6 weeks, we've been the 4th easiest team to score against when the ball gets inside our defensive 50. Big worry, showing how effective they are. But again, it just kind of highlights that when we're on the top of our game, this is somewhere where we need to make sure we stifle it out. And I kind of, again, wanted to show you a bit of a comparison, showing you the kind of goals and showing the forward lines match up, and then kind of showing you those marks inside 50. So we'll get up the average goals here, because, again, it's kind of highlighting some deficiencies with us, because while we've got a Charlie Curnow averaging the 3.7 and even a Matty Owies at 2.3 compared to their highest being at my check at 2.3, and then no one really else is in that 2 bracket. That's good for us. The issue is then where it drops off, because then the next guys for us, it's Harry at 1.3, which with the opportunities he's getting needs to be higher, and Durden also with him at 1.3, Motlop at 1, Jack Silvani at 0.9. When you compare that with the vast amount that Collingwood have, it's Cox and Hill at 1.3, Ginnivan at 1.2, DeGoey and Johnson 1.1, and then Elliott and McCreary at 1 apiece. So they've got basically 2 guys extra there that are averaging around that 1 mark. And you could probably even go lower than this, and I'm sure they'll still have more players through it. But it just shows you that they've got so many different avenues to goal, even though they don't necessarily have the tools in there. And with, I guess, Cameron coming back, it allows Cox to be down there more. So it wouldn't surprise me if his numbers start to go up because of that. So it just shows you that we need our best players to step up like a Harry. We need our smalls to be good. And we also just need more players to actually step up and be options to score, and that defenders have to watch out. And then looking at the marks inside 50 to kind of show you how this plays out. And maybe it shows you with the goals there that for us, it's 3.4 averaging marks inside 50 for Charlie, 2.8 for Harry. So that goal conversion is very low for how often he's getting it in potentially good areas, at least closer to goal. And then Owies is the only other Carlton player above a 1 at 1.5. Compare that to Collingwood. They don't have the highs that we do, with Elliott being their highest at 1.9, but my check 1.8, Johnson 1.6, Cox 1.5, and then Hill 1, DeGoey 0.9, and then to round them out, they've got Ginnivan and McCreary at 0.8, while we've got, Silvani 0.8, Durden 0.6, Motlop 0.6. So it's just they've got such a higher amount of guys that are able to get off the chain and be options, which I think what that shows me is when they do spread and when they do get the ball away, they're just potentially going to be able to hit up so many different options, which is why we've just got to be at our best. And it's why they're so dangerous, really. And the crazy thing with the marks inside 50, the averages doesn't look as bad. But when you actually tally up the points and see the discrepancy, it's like we've got 31 and 25 from McKay and Curnow. And then the drop off from that for us, it's like Silvani on 7. Whereas theirs is a lot more even, being 17, 16, 11, 9, 7. It kind of slowly drops down. Ours is the 2 talls and no one else as far as marks inside 50. And I understand it's the way we play. We've got tall targets, so we use them. But we just do need some more avenues to goals, and maybe that's where some midfielders can kind of step up and maybe contribute a little bit more in that space.
For sure. I feel like, always inflates those because but he's played half the games. So it's it's even worse than it looks. That really does tell the story, I think. But you're right. That is how we play it. It doesn't necessarily, I don't think it has to be a bad thing necessarily that we have the more higher end guys and less spread, but we can't say that it's working optimally for us right now.
Yeah, we obviously just need more output from, it's obvious, Harry. And then the smalls need to be hitting that scoreboard. We need midfielders to do it. And while I know it's a bit of grim reading or listening, viewing, whatever it is, just going through that, it kind of just highlights why they're going so well and why we probably aren't at the moment. And then it just highlights those, what do we need to stop? What do we need to do to win? Which takes us to the keys to winning. I know you wanted to get to this earlier, but I've got them here, and I'll go back through those.
Give me the keys.
Pillars. It is the work rate, discipline, teamwork. Reason I say that: high pressure in our forward 50 to lock the ball in and not allow the easy exits. I spoke about how good Collingwood are getting the ball out of there, how that's such a big thing with Nick Dacos being the number 2 player in their team for generating those inside 50s, score involvements. Everything's so high for this man. Getting high pressure in there, that work rate, discipline, working as a team, working as a collective to lock it in, that is key. Most importantly, I think the thing that we need to do is win that midfield battle and win the clearances. Yes. It allows Collingwood less time to have the ball in hand, doesn't allow them to spread. And then we just have to work really to continually work hard if they do win the spread, and then limit our turnovers. Because if we're doing what we did against the Dogs and using the ball so poorly by foot or by hand, they're going to kill us because they're going to hurt us on the spread. And, limiting their midfield spread will equal those less forward entries to their dynamic forwards, which we've said that you don't want it in there too often. So I think that it's clear that the midfield battle is so big, and that comes down to, again, work rate, discipline. Don't get sucked into the contest, particularly with those wingers. We saw it last year in probably that first game against Collingwood. Cottrell got absolutely given a footballing lesson by Sidebottom out on the wings, and knowing Collingwood play those positions so well, you've just got to be disciplined in your position and make sure you're doing the team role, working for each other, creating options, creating spread for yourselves. And it's smart decision-making exiting D50, like I alluded to earlier. Their smalls will hurt us on turnover. They'll be high on pressure, so we just got to make the right decisions and then be smart when the ball hits the ground. I don't want to be seeing a goal like the Doggies kicked last week where we think the ball's gone out and it's a behind, so we stop, and then all of a sudden they just walk into an open goal. That can't be happening. Collingwood will hurt us a lot more than the Doggies will, and so not only does that smart decision-making stop Collingwood's strength, the turnover inside 50, it helps us launch. And then where we've got the ball in hand and we're streaming forward and delivering it to Charlie and Harry. So those are my keys to winning. That's why those pillars were a part of it. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, Lockie, that you were seeing as the keys? And what did you make of those pillars? Do you think I did well enough to explain why they were so important?
I've been giving you a lot of positive feedback recently. You're really just coming into your own with all this. So no,
I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the backhanded compliment because I feel like I dish out a bit to you. So I feel like I deserve a little bit coming back my way.
I'm not in that mood tonight. It feels like the calm before the storm, before a big weekend of footy that's going to wrap up with a big Blues win. So I'm not going to come at you today unless we get unless you come at me with the tips, and then I might.
Well. We'll get there in a second. I just realized I do have one other question. Probably should have put this in earlier because maybe this is a bit depressing. But maybe it's not. Maybe we can get this back up and about. I just remembered I have this one from someone that messaged us on Facebook. It is CJ Co, I believe is how you pronounce that one. Which is a topic we probably haven't covered a lot of. It's been probably the hottest topic. We haven't gone in depth in it a lot. So there's probably a lot of people asking similar questions, and he's asked us the hard-hitting one here. He's gone, why is everyone dodging the big question with Harry? Should he be dropped back to the VFL for a week or two to try and get his confidence back? Maybe looking at Sauce moving up and bring TDK in for another tall option. What's the worst can happen? And this is kind of the sentiment. I kind of want to get this question out and about of your sort of thoughts on Harry at the moment. There's been obviously so much about it. We said it at the start of the show. We want to be there and cheering him to help him with the confidence. What's your take on it? Do you think at some stage if it isn't working well, does he have to go to the twos? What's your thoughts on the whole Harry Mackay talking point currently?
Sure. I think as a general principle, and we talk about this sometimes, where there is players that we feel like they could get value by going to the twos and tearing it up. Like people like Jack Martin come to mind, where we're like, we believe that you're fringe and you're not giving us enough. So we want to see that you can actually do it there.
Yeah.
Harry doesn't feel like that kind of player to me. Like I hold him to too high of a standard. There's no guarantee that him doing that is going to build his confidence. Yeah. It could shatter his confidence for the rest of the season. Like the amount of media attention and criticism that he's getting right now. Imagine if he's then dropped. Like it would just be even more of a snowball, in my opinion. So for me, I wouldn't be going that route. We've spoken about Harry each week. Now we haven't gone into depth, but I feel like our general consensus is he's not playing terribly. Like he's not one of our worst players. His errors have been the most glaring, just because of the nature of them and because of the high standard that we know he can do, winning a freaking Coleman 15 months ago. Yeah. So for me, I think it is just persisting. Like you spoke about this game being a circuit break for the team. I think any of these weeks can just be a circuit breaker for him as well, where he puts a few games together and we look back and go, remember when he had the yips? Because they're gone now. So for me, it's keep showing the faith, keep persisting, and it's going to click eventually.
No, look, you've nailed pretty much all my thoughts. I think we're back aligned, which is beautiful here at the Navy Blue corner, because I agree, and I know some people maybe asked for him to get dropped, but I agree. I think that if that does happen, that's probably worse for his confidence, and I just don't think that is what would be best. And even going back off what you said, I feel like I'm just going to repeat everything, which is apart from the conversion in front of goal, everything else has been really good. His working up the ground has been great. I think his kicking has been absolutely fine in field. It gets highlighted a little bit, but I haven't had an issue with that too much either. He's been getting the opportunities. If he wasn't getting the opportunities, I'd be worried. But clearly there's just, for whatever reason, he's missing a couple more than he would normally. And that's not good. Some players go through these periods. I think the media pylon has been overboard. Like, I don't know. Maybe this is me being delusional, but like he's missed a bunch, but like I don't think it's been horrific. Like it hasn't been good, but I don't think it's been as much as it's earned as much talking point. He's obviously set the standards for himself. I think the snaps don't help because when you miss it, it looks so much worse. But like if he just missed a drop punt, I don't think the storyline would be as loud in the media as possible. And so for me, it's just keep going and eventually it'll click. And it's been raised in the media a little bit. And I was fortunate again. I'll drop a Boge bomb. I don't know, brownie bomb. I don't know if that's the thing from the
end the episode.
Well, the eye didn't work for it, but the little tidbit I got from Zach Fisher, this wasn't brought up. It wasn't like I was pestering him about Harry. It was the question was asked about running and extras that guys do outside of the regular program, and he was quick to just mention that. Look, as far as extras, like Harry's the one that does the most. Like he's always out there with his kicking, always working on it, always trying to sort this craft out. So I think if anyone's going to do it that's putting in the work, it's him. And that kind of instilled me with the confidence with, well, at least he's working on it and he's been working on it for a long time. So at some stage it'll click. Maybe you could look at it the other way and say, maybe he just needs a break. Maybe he needs to stop working on it. Maybe that will be the mental thing. But It fills me with confidence that this guy is putting in the hard yards, and he'd understand it's not going all great, but it's everything else he's offering that's good. And eventually, I think it will turn. But I think that's the Harry discussion for me. I think we're pretty much aligned. Do you have anything else you wanted to add to that just before we head into the footy tips?
Just the really quick thing I was going to say is we are very blessed right now with our injury state, and we've got like our strongest team out in the park. I think you can't underestimate as well the fact that if we take Harry out and try and move some magnets, well, we already see how it's working with Charlie right now. Like he's got 5 players on him. Well, he's going to have 6 then. You just think about those bailout kicks that we need at times where it's like, God, we just need to kick this to the wing and hope Harry takes a contested mark, and he does. He's been nailing all of that. So it's a nothing for me. Go out there, cheer his name when his name gets called out, get around him, and maybe we can start turning a little bit for him. But I have no doubt that he'll sort it out. So that's pretty much going to finish the talking of
Carlton footy, because we're getting to one of our favourite segments, and I don't know if I'm happy or incredibly nervous about this one, because this is our footy tips. We are going to the fun part of this episode. We are in the Carlton Cheers Squad footy tipping competition. Things have been a little bit bleak, and so we've tried to change things up. Instead of working as a unit, because that wasn't working, we've decided to split it, make it a bit more of a competition.
I was begging us to work as a unit last week, by the way, if you can recall. So I need to hear how it went.
I understand it, but we aligned too much on this, so we needed to disagree with something. And so the pass mark to stay on is 7 out of 9 every week. And Lockie'd been doing pretty well. Credit to him. He'd been getting us that 7 out of 9, coming through very clutch. Unfortunately,
I feel like
it's a 5 out of 9.
5
week. Pretty grim. Pretty
over the
grim.
keys.
So Ian is in the hot seat this week. God, I just referred to myself in third person. I want to throw up.
Didn't even occur to me. I feel like you do that all episodes. So
I hope I don't. Someone pull me up if I have been. But 5 out of 9 means I'm finally back, which probably means you'll be in the hot seat again next week. It's gonna be interesting here to see what I can do. I tell you what was frustrating was last week I had so many winners. I had Richmond. I had Gold Coast. I had Freo.
I asked to be
I
a
had
unit.
Port, because you tipped
Sorry,
North.
listeners.
I don't know what you're doing. I had Melbourne.
They're
I
up
had
a quarter
Brisbane.
time.
The only game that I did not have was I tipped Carlton, which is actually incredible from me. But watch me get 1 out of 9 this week. This is disaster. I can't do it this week.
This is proof that I should be tipping again, because I knew that we needed to be a unit last week, and you're the one that denied that. So we would have had 8. Maybe we would have had 9. Maybe we would have even gone against Carlton.
Well, see, I don't want you angling to try and take this seat away from me. I've barely gone in. It's barely warm, and you're already going, see, this is what should happen. Get me back in the seat. You sit there, shut your mouth. I'm going to win us 9 out of 9 this week, because we
Can I make a proposal?
Okay, go for it.
I reckon we ditch the 7 out of 9. I think it's you stay on if we go up the ranks.
Okay, so even if you have a botched week,
need progress.
Everyone else has a bad week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because all we're trying to do here is get up. You get up the table.
Okay, I don't mind that. I'm happy with that, and I'll just even I will even say that. Guess what, Lockie? You didn't go up in it this week, so you're still in that dirty seat in the corner. Sit down there. I'll take over this week. But I do like it. I'll probably, who cares? I'll hit the 7 anyway, because
I don't know.
Look, Port Adelaide, why is Melbourne the favourite? Get them out of there. Port's winning at home. Chuck them in by 11 points. Let's go. Tip. An upset already. North Melbourne don't even have a coach at this stage, so Sydney will win that
Ratton
one.
Is First winning this game.
Nah. Sydney every day of the week. George Wardlaw, he can play all he wants. Is no chance. Oh, this is hard. Mars Stadium, Western Bulldogs versus Adelaide. See, I really want to go Adelaide here, but you just got to go the Dogs. You got to go the Dogs.
Correct. Finally,
it's away from Adelaide Oval. Freo versus Geelong. Ooh, I see. Maybe I want us to go back together for this week, because I cannot pick between these two. I think I just have to go with the head that says Geelong. And I think you might be Freo in the bag there.
No, Geelong's going to win.
Oh, the big one, the Q Clash, one of the favourites that get the people down to the ground. There might be
Jared Lyons
30
Cup.
people there. Unbelievable. Brisbane will win that one easily.
Agreed.
Essendon versus Richmond. Ooh, I hate this game. I hate both these teams. Richmond are bouncing back a little bit. I think I'll go them. I think I'll go the Tigers in that one. Well, Jesus. Speaking of certain cups, this could be the Harley Reid Cup. Hawthorn versus West Coast. Yeah, it has to be Hawthorn.
Cup.
Did he play for the Hawks, did he? Wow, that is... My AFL trivia news is not going well there. Carlton, Collingwood. Obviously, Carlton. We can't tip.
Give us your favourite player that played for Carlton and Collingwood.
There's only one. There's clearly one.
Cameron
it's Cameron Cloak. No, it is Heath Scotland. It's Heath Scotland, of course. I'm glad you got onto that.
I'm very surprised that we actually picked the same one. There's so many niche ones like that. Oh, wow. I'm impressed with us.
Was Cameron Wood also?
Oh yeah.
Was he a Collingwood kid? We loved the Camerons from Collingwood for a little bit. For Solo was certainly there. Heath Scotland was just obviously
Jordan Russell.
Jordan Russell, true. We end up going to see. Not many went to Collingwood. Like them normally came to us. Obviously, your Daisy Thomases as well.
It's true.
There's more than you'd expect considering the rivalry. Like think about a Carlton Essendon. There's not many that go that way, which is intriguing.
Really?
Then to finish it up, to make it 9 out of 9, the Giants versus the Saints. Mate, do I go rogue here? Do I go rogue with one for GWS? I'm so tempted. But no, I think King's back for the Saints. So get them involved. So that is the tips this week. Let me know if I've made a mare there on the tips. I've gone a couple of underdogs, but you need them. You need them. That is 9 out of 9. Chuck them in. I'll be in the hot seat again next week. Lockie, do you have anything to add before we wrap this one up at all?
This is the time where you pump us all up, mate.
See, you're starting to put too much into this. And now
everybody waits for
something. Now I have to
People
do something.
sit through the tips. They don't care about the tips. They just want to get to this moment. An hour and 10 minutes into this bad boy.
I think this may be the worst one. This may be the worst closer that I'll give you.
Should I log off and just let you and the listeners be together for a bit?
I think I may need to log off. I think you may need to take over because I'll be honest. Right now, I don't think that we will beat Collingwood. Sitting here, right now. Going off everything we've seen, I do not believe that we will get it done. But
wrong.
Think about the storylines going into this game. You take your head away from it. Go with the heart, mate. Everyone's shitting on Harry Mackay. Can't kick a goal. Can't buy one. Well, guess what? He's going to kick 5 or 6. Will he get 10? Guess what, Harry, mate? Sorry, Charlie. You can't get to 10. You're stuck on 9. Harry's getting 10. You can just see this. You can see it. All the storylines. Carlton are bottle jobs. They can't beat Collingwood. They can't even beat the Doggies. They're playing a quarter of football. Not this week. It's Collingwood. We have to win at least 2 games out of these next 4 or so. This is surely the one. We've spoken about the importance of that circuit breaker. And even though my head's telling me we're no chance in this, everything makes no sense. The way we play means we'll get killed by Collingwood. You just think you have to sit there and think it's happening, isn't it? Like it's the underdog story of the year. We get this done, circuit breaker. All of a sudden, everything clicks. Boys are up and about, fans are up and about, and we go on to get into the top 8 pretty easily. It feels like it's written in the stars this week, Lockie. For as much as I feel like it won't happen, that is making me believe that it will happen. I don't know. It is a weird feeling. I told you, it's not a great pump up. It probably isn't a pump up at all. So I may need something for you to bring it home, but I don't know. Against all odds, this feels like the one.
That will go down as an all-time fence sit from you.
Fence sit.
You're going to be sitting here. Told you we'd lose. Or when we win, I told you to believe.
That's not what it's about, Lockie. It's not about me being right thinking this. It's me saying that I don't think we'll win. My head keeps telling me it's not happening. Look at the comparisons I've given you. They're better at the clearances. They're better with the marks inside 50. They're better on the spread. Your midfield's too slow. I'm writing the list of things. And guess what? Come here Monday night. I'm going to come with that list of everything that Carlton aren't as good as Collingwood at. And I'm going to be going, oh, Paddy Cripps is too slow. Cross it off the list. Harry Mackay can't kick a goal. Cross it off the list. Because the Baggers are going to bloody win this one. Fuck Collingwood. We hate these dogs. And it's going to happen for the mighty Baggers because it's an underdog story for the ages. Everything's going to click for these boys. And we'll be back here talking about a win. Up the bloody Baggers. See you guys next time.